Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. I know this podcast is quite new, but some of you have been following along for a while now. As you may have noticed, the narrator has changed a couple of times already in just a few months. The truth is, the podcast has been growing extremely slow, and basically nobody has left us any reviews so far. I'm here as the new voice of the podcast and would love to stick around, but I need your support to do so. Please, if you enjoy our content, it would mean so much to us if you could just leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, a place where gentle words float softly through the evening air, inviting you to drift into a realm of tranquil rest. Tonight, you are here to set aside the day's cares, to let each breath guide you closer to a state of deep, soothing relaxation. A warm glow surrounds you, like candlelight dancing on the gentle curves of a quiet room. Your muscles begin to loosen with each slow inhale and exhale, and your body grows pleasantly heavy with the promise of peaceful slumber. If you listen closely, you might sense a faint whisper of wind like a desert breeze on a moonlit night. Tonight's story is called Pharaoh's Moon in Luxor, a soft, mystical journey into an ancient land where the gentle hush of the Nile, the glimmer of moonlight, and the echoes of forgotten memories mingle on the air to lull you into the sweetest of sleeps. All around you there's a feeling of enveloping calm. Imagine a quiet evening that settles over a soothing landscape, the sky tinted with a deep violet hue. A faint shimmer of golden starlight illuminates the horizon, and you find yourself sinking into the soft surface beneath you. Whether it's a bed, a comfortable couch, or a cozy chair, each breath you take becomes a cool, cleansing wave, washing away the remains of tension from your shoulders, your arms, and your legs. Slowly, these sensations of weight and warmth spread through every part of your body, from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes, grounding you in the present moment. Allow your thoughts to soften like a breeze, carrying away dry leaves, leaving your inner landscape clear and expansive. In this space of relaxation, you begin to release the day's to-do lists, concerns, and the many responsibilities that swirl in the background of your mind. Here, it's safe to be still. Let your eyelids become heavier with each soft breath. The gentle light that surrounds you now feels as though it's merging seamlessly with your deeper awareness. Every quiet inhale expands your comfort, and every slow exhale dissolves any lingering traces of anxiety. As you slip further into this peaceful state, feel free to surrender to the gentle tide that draws you nearer to a place of rest. There's nothing you need to do in this moment except drift, listen, and let the story unfold before you. Long ago, in the time of desert nights and gilded hieroglyphs, there was a particular evening when a slender crescent moon rose over the city of Luxor. The air shimmered with desert warmth, and the Nile's waters moved slowly, reflecting the faint light of stars upon their surface. On this night, a young traveler named Amun strolled along the riverbank, guided more by curiosity than by any specific purpose. His steps were soft against the sandy path, and each grain of sand seemed to glow under the moon's pale gleam. He paused occasionally, listening to the hush of water lapping the shore, and gazed up at the endless sky that stretched above him. Amun was neither prince nor pauper. He was simply a kind soul whose heart was tuned to the subtle sounds of the evening. He had come to Luxor in search of something he couldn't quite articulate, a whisper of ancient stories, a resonance of times long past. And in this city that stood proud under the silent gaze of old temples, he believed he might discover a gentle secret hidden within the shadows. It was a secret passed down through the centuries, carried on desert winds, and tucked into the quiet corners of temple walls. There on the banks of the great river, he felt a presence older than he could imagine, a reverence that seemed woven into the very fabric of Luxor's dusty streets. Every step brought him closer to the heart of the city, where sphinxes once lined grand processional ways, and where towering columns reached up toward the sky. He could see in the distance the outline of those columns, half dressed in moonlight, half veiled in darkness. He breathed in the balmy air, tasting the faint tang of the river and the desert beyond it. As he walked, the hush of the night deepened around him, and the calls of distant night birds softened until only the gentle rustling of palm fronds remained. It was on such a night that the spirits of ancient storytellers felt compelled to share their lore. The moon shone so brilliantly that the hieroglyphs carved into the walls of the temples seemed alive, dancing in silver illumination. And as Amun wandered closer to those grand temples, he sensed an invitation in the atmosphere, a subtle, welcoming urge to step inside, to place his hand on the worn stones, and to let history speak to him in whispers. The gates were tall and dignified, each pillar engraved with symbols that told stories of royalty and godhood, of dreams and mysteries. Within those temple courts, an almost sacred silence dwelled, broken only by the faint echo of water dripping from the ancient cisterns. Shadows overlapped on the walls, forming shapes that stirred the imagination, conjuring figures of slender maidens, bearing offerings, and regal pharaohs gazing toward the stars. As he wandered further into the temple precinct, Amun touched the carved lotus flowers etched into the columns. The rough grooves under his fingertips thrummed with a gentle energy, as if each carving still held the memory of the artisans who, centuries before, had devoted their skilled hands to immortalizing the stories of their gods. On this mystical evening, the moonlight seemed to bend through open archways and reflect off polished floors with an otherworldly sheen, as though the very stones glowed with an internal luminescence. Farther into the temple, in a courtyard half open to the sky, there lay a quiet corner where a small pool caught the light of the moon. Its surface was glassy and still, except when the night breeze stirred it into faint ripples. He stood there captivated by the interplay of light and reflection, feeling as though time itself had ceased its forward march. In this moment, the weight of modern cares disappeared, replaced by a tranquil reverence. A gentle cat, slender and graceful, emerged from behind a pillar to wind between Amun's ankles. Golden eyes flickered in the silver glow. The cat seemed a keeper of secrets, an embodiment of the ancient presence that pervaded the temple halls. It studied the stranger quietly, then slipped away into the shadows, leaving a vague sense that something had been shared in its silent visit. Amun followed the cat's movements with a soft gaze, curious yet unhurried, for he knew that in this realm of quiet hush, everything had its own languid pace. Across the silent courtyard, tall papyrus plants rustled in a gentle breeze, their delicate fronds tapping softly against stone. It sounded like a lullaby, a subtle percussion that coaxed weary travelers to rest. The moon slowly ascended, its crescent turning silvery beams into a steady path of light that led Amun to a narrow passage adorned with ancient reliefs. The carvings depicted celestial barges and constellations guiding him deeper into a corridor that felt older than memory. Beneath his sandals, the smooth floor echoed faintly, as though each footstep reverberated with centuries of footfalls from travelers gone by. There was a tale whispered among the local townsfolk about Luxor's moonlit nights, a tale that told of the Pharaoh's moon, a rare brilliance when the cosmos aligned just right, so that the desert sky glowed with the aura of ancient blessings. On such nights, they said, the line between present and past blurred, and if one wandered into the old temples, they might catch a glimpse of regal figures drifting through the corridors, or hear the echoes of chanting from long ago ceremonies. Yet these fleeting visions were never frightening. They carried the gentle weight of timeless wisdom, as comforting as a lullaby. And so, on this special night, the halls of stone opened like arms to embrace any soul quiet enough to listen. Amun soon found himself in a central chamber, its walls traced with rows of hieroglyphic texts telling the story of the sun god's journeys through the underworld. A faint torchlight flickered here. Some caretaker had left it burning, allowing the carved symbols to dance with shadow. He paused there, inhaling the distant scents of incense and desert air. In the torch's soft glow, the colored remnants on the murals, once vibrant reds, blues, and golds, still clung to the carvings, telling silent tales of devotion. Gently, he let his gaze wander over the images, the sun god in a solar boat, guarded by protective serpents and lioness-headed deities. Figures bearing gifts to the gods, kneeling in reverence, marched across the wall. Their faces wore serene expressions as though painted in perpetual prayer. The hush of the chamber seemed filled with a soft humming, almost like the echo of chanting from ages past. In that hushed space, Amun's heartbeat slowed, aligning with the temple's ancient pulse. He closed his eyes, allowing the gentle lull of near silence to envelop him, drifting into the dreamy ambiance of that timeless sanctuary. A silent calm settled in his thoughts. Even the gentle crackle of the torch felt distant, like a soothing background rhythm. When he finally opened his eyes, he noticed a faint glimmer at the far end of the chamber. Stepping closer, he saw another corridor leading to a small, hidden annex. Warm, golden light emanated from that hidden recess, flickering as though beckoning him nearer. Following that glow, he moved quietly, each step a mindful act of curiosity and calm. Within that alcove stood a statue of a pharaoh, carved from dark stone with a regal, serene countenance. In one hand, the statue held an ankh, symbol of life. In the other, it cradled a small orb carved with crescent shapes, presumably representing the moon. The expression on the statue's face was neither stern nor severe, but tender and introspective, as though gazing gently upon all who approached. At the statue's feet, someone had placed a few desert lilies, their white petals glimmering in the moonlight that filtered through a narrow sliver in the temple's roof. The moment Amun stepped into that annex, a soft breeze drifted through the opening above, carrying with it the faint aroma of blooming night flowers. He breathed in deeply, feeling tension melt from his shoulders. The moonlight created a subtle illumination around the statue, as if the carved pharaoh was bathed in silver. For a long while, Amun stood there, simply admiring the statue's calm presence. It was as though the centuries between them dissolved under the softness of the night. The edges of reality seemed to blur, and the hush grew so profound that he felt he could hear the statue exhale or even speak in gentle tones. He placed a respectful hand over his heart and bowed his head, offering a silent greeting to the ancient figure. And though it was only a carving, he felt a sense of acknowledgement, a peaceful acceptance of his presence. The moment held a quiet, sacred quality. Outside, the breeze rustled the leaves of nearby palm trees, and the shadows of those swaying fronds shimmered on the walls, creating an ethereal tapestry of light and dark. It felt like a secret vigil, an exchange between the living and the memory of a time when gods and humans walked side by side. Not wishing to disturb the sanctity of that place, Amun turned to find a seat along one of the low stone benches. He settled himself gently, letting his body relax while he maintained his gaze on the statue bathed in lunar radiance. There he breathed, slow and deep, letting each inhalation fill him with the calm, timeless energy of the temple, and each exhalation carry away any fleeting remnants of restlessness. His eyelids flickered with a heavy, peaceful drowsiness, as if the temple walls were singing a lullaby in a tongue older than the sands. Time slipped away. The stories engraved in the walls seemed to expand into the chamber, forming quiet panoramas of daily life along the Nile, grand ceremonial processions, and nights spent under star-filled skies. Behind closed eyelids, Amun's mind filled with gentle visions. A barge gliding across the glassy river at twilight, priests laying lotus flowers before the altars, the slow hush of a desert wind carrying the whispered prayers of a far-off settlement. Each image glided into the next, weaving a tapestry of calm that lulled his senses. The moon rose higher still, and as it did, a silvery beam struck the orb in the statue's hand, causing it to gleam as though made of luminous pearl. The effect was soft, yet mesmerizing, prompting Amun to open his eyes and witness the gentle radiance that now seemed to emanate from the carved stone. A wave of warmth filled the chamber, as though some kindly presence had awakened. In that embrace of subtle light, one could almost sense the entire temple breathing in harmony. The pillars, the carvings, the paintings, each seemed alive, suffused with a profound and restful spirit. For a moment, the boundaries of history seemed to dissolve. The temple was not merely ancient stone, nor was it just an archaeological wonder. It became a living poem of devotion and cosmic rhythms. Through half-lidded eyes, Amun witnessed the Pharaoh's statue as if the stone had softened into gentle flesh. A serene visage glimmered with compassion for the living who wandered through its domain, urging them to remember the subtle ties that connect them to ages long past. In the courtyard beyond, the cat that had greeted him earlier stretched and arched its back, peering into the annex as though checking on its visitor. Then, satisfied, it padded silently across the worn floor, tail held high. The quiet rustle of its steps seemed to reinforce the hush, an audible thread woven through the tapestry of stillness that wrapped the temple in its ancient serenity. Now the moon was at its zenith, radiating a pearly glow across the entire temple complex. The city of Luxor, just beyond these walls, also slept, its rooftops brushed by soft starlight. Along the streets, lanterns gave off their final glimmers before surrendering to the hush of deep night. The distant rustle of palms by the Nile lent a comforting rhythm like the gentle pulse of a cradle rocking in a lullaby. In this nocturnal realm, boundaries dissolved between the traveler and the ancient environment, between the illusions of busyness and the soft unfolding of dreams. Amun felt his breath deepen, his thoughts drifting like mist across an oasis pool. He recalled tales of the Egyptian pantheon, how the goddess of the sky arched over the earth to cradle her children, how the daily cycle of the sun was mirrored by the cyclical nature of human existence. A warmth blossomed in his chest, a recognition that these deities were not far away, but right here, dancing in the interplay of moonlight, starlight, and the hush that hovered over everything. He closed his eyes again and let the images return, this time drifting even deeper into a peaceful reverie. In that reverie, he envisioned a royal barge gliding across the moonlit Nile. Lanterns hung from carved posts, illuminating the boat with a gentle golden glow. Silken canopies billowed overhead, while figures dressed in flowing linen garments lounged on plush cushions. The Pharaoh, crowned with a regal headdress, stood at the bow, gazing upon the desert horizon. The sky was vast, sprinkled with countless stars, each one glittering with a secret known only to those who listened in stillness. The soft sound of water lapping against the hull accompanied faint music from a lyre, each note dissolving like a whisper into the night air. On the banks, people watched the passing barge with quiet wonder. They felt a kinship in that moment, a collective awareness that something magical connected them all, an intangible thread of moonlight binding hearts and stories across ages. In the dream, Amun walked along the shore, and though the barge was distant, the Pharaoh turned and offered him a gentle smile as if greeting a dear friend. A sense of profound peace washed through him, and he bowed in return, feeling gratitude well from within. With a slow inward breath, he drifted deeper into the illusion, stepping aboard the barge in his mind. Musicians played a lullaby, their eyes half closed, swaying in unison with the gentle rocking of the vessel. The night sky shimmered above, reflected in the rippling water below. A hush fell over everyone present, as though they were part of a single unified breath. The barge glided onward, passing towering reeds that swayed in the breeze, their seed heads sparkling with tiny droplets of dew. In those droplets glowed miniature reflections of the moon, tiny arcs of silver dancing in the darkness. Gradually the barge approached the temple steps. The light from the sanctuary beckoned, just as the real temple's courtyard had done earlier. Figures dressed in white linen carried soft torches, their flames flickering with the promise of welcome. The Pharaoh disembarked and ascended the steps with measured grace, footsteps echoing against the polished stone. A hush of anticipation hung in the air. At the threshold, the statue of the same Pharaoh, the one Amun had found, seemed to come alive. Its stone face glowed with the same silver hue, an invitation to embrace the deep mystery within those temple walls. In that haze of a dream, everything felt safe, calm, and harmoniously interconnected. Amun could hear his own heartbeat aligning with the rhythms of temple drums, which played a soft, heartbeat-like cadence that soothed the mind. He found himself gliding through corridors where lotus motifs and stars lined the ceilings, each swirl of paint reminiscent of cosmic patterns. Columns rose like trees in a sacred grove, each carved with images of gods, goddesses, and the gentle presence of the Nile's life-giving waters. He stepped into an open courtyard where the moonlight fell in a perfect circle, and in the center stood a large basin filled with shimmering water. It caught the moon's reflection perfectly, forming a luminous mirror of the night sky. He watched as the reflection shifted, revealing images of life along the river, fishermen casting nets at dawn, children laughing as they splashed in shallow waters, travelers resting beneath date palms. These scenes of daily life blended seamlessly with the grandeur of monumental celebrations, a grand feast in the Pharaoh's honor, processions with flower-strewn barges, harpists who played delicate tunes that rose to the starry canopy. Within this tranquil tapestry, a balance existed, the majestic and the mundane woven together, sustained by the gentle hum of eternal cycles. Eventually the vision began to fade, leaving only the quiet hush of the temple annex. Amun was still seated upon the cool stone bench, eyes closed, breathing in a slow and steady rhythm. The moon had shifted, and now only a faint beam caressed the statue's cheek. He felt the corners of his mouth curve into a soft smile, as though greeting a dear companion in the darkness. When he reopened his eyes, the chamber was peaceful, a silent guardian of memories, both known and unknown. His gaze returned to the statue's glowing orb, now dimmed but still regal in its form. He saw in it a metaphor for the quiet mysteries of existence, that life, much like the moon, has phases of illumination and shadow, and yet in every phase there is beauty and solace. In this place, centuries after it was built, the old stones remained steadfast, quietly offering a refuge to all who sought solace in the moonlit hush. As the night carried onward, Amun felt a pull to explore the rest of the temple grounds. Rising slowly from the bench, he passed through the corridors with a measured pace, accompanied by the gentle echo of his own footsteps. He emerged into another courtyard, this one with tall columns crowned by lotus capitals. The intricately carved architraves overhead caught stray beams of light, illuminating fragments of hieroglyphs that adorned the surfaces. In that courtyard, a large reflecting pool stretched before him, edged by ornamental stones. Night-blooming lilies floated upon its surface, their white petals unfurling to greet the moon's tender glow. He walked to the edge of the pool and knelt to touch the water. Its coolness sent a subtle, tingling sensation through his fingertips. All around the temple breathed with quiet majesty, and the moon's reflection shimmered beside the silhouettes of ancient columns. Crickets chirped from hidden nooks, creating a gentle background chorus. If he gazed long enough, he could imagine the pool as a portal to another realm, a mirror to an alternate Luxor where pharaohs still ruled and the night air thrummed with ancient hymns. It was as though the environment itself encouraged these gentle imaginings, urging him to remain open to the silent language of wonder. He continued strolling, guided by the faint glow of the sky and the intuitive pull of his heart. The temple's architecture seemed endless, with colonnades leading into courtyards that opened onto still more spaces adorned with hieroglyphic reliefs. Yet there was no sense of rush or disorientation. Each new space felt like an unfolding story, a page turned in a book so old and cherished that one yearned to read it slowly, savoring every line. The desert air was mild, carrying a gentle warmth that eased the body into relaxation, even as it swept away the day's weariness. Finally, his wandering led him back toward the exit he had first entered. The tall gates stood in silent, stately form, flanked by stone guardians whose faces were chipped by time, yet still held an air of protection. Beyond the gate, the city of Luxor rested in a peaceful hush, though the watchful desert skies remained fully alive with starlight. Amun paused there, turning back to regard the temple's imposing silhouette one last time. He felt an almost tender gratitude rise within him, like a tide of warmth in his chest. He stepped outside, and the sands beyond the temple felt surprisingly soft beneath his sandals. The palm trees near the river rustled with a soothing lull, as if congratulating him on a journey inward rather than a mere walk among stones. Overhead, the moon hung like a silent observer, wearing its ancient glow that had once bathed the pharaohs and would continue to shine long after the present day slipped into memory. The hush of the night was now his companion, a soft cloak that helped him breathe more deeply and see more gently. Walking along the riverbank once more, he found a small clearing amid some reeds where he could sit by the water's edge. The Nile flowed serenely, mirroring the heavens in a swaying band of silver. The breath of night was mild, caressing his skin like a delicate shawl. At times, a faint plash of fish or the flutter of a bird's wings broke the quiet, only to fade swiftly into the deeper stillness. He closed his eyes again, allowing his mind to replay the tranquil visions and feelings that had welled up inside him while wandering the temple. A gentle, reassuring drowsiness settled over him, like a child softly lulled by a bedtime story. Memories of intricate carvings drifted through his thoughts, along with the regal statue bathed in moonlight, the quiet cat, the courtyard fountain, and the hush of corridors that seemed to echo with distant chanting. These impressions were as comforting as a downy blanket, coaxing him toward the restful depths of sleep. The moon watched over him, a cosmic guardian, as the star-studded sky offered its silent lullaby. Eventually he slipped from the boundary of wakefulness into a dream state so serene that it felt like floating on a gentle sea of starlight. Now, dear traveler, let us ease away from this ancient realm. As the moon continues its silent journey across the sky, you might feel the soft, comforting weight of drowsiness settling more heavily over you. Let each slow breath draw you closer to the sweet release of sleep. Feel your thoughts unfurl and dissolve like ripples disappearing on a midnight river. Let the memories of desert sands, moonlit temples, and gentle cat paws calm your mind and body, softening them into a state of complete relaxation. There is no urgency here, no need to hold on to anything. Let the hush of Luxor's moonlit corridors and the tender glow of the Nile wrap you in layers of soothing warmth. If your eyelids feel heavy, let them close without resistance. Sink deeper into the surfaces that cradle your body. Each exhale is a quiet surrender to the deep peace waiting for you as night folds around your weary limbs and eases all tension into gentle oblivion. Bask in the calm, as though the ancient stones themselves are singing a lullaby, guiding you into a quiet so profound that dreams slip in with grace. You have journeyed through the halls of timelessness, touched the heart of a moonlit sanctum, and felt the gentle brush of history's whispers against your soul. Now in this final stretch, let each breath slow to a soft, rhythmic tide, pulling you deeper into the nurturing arms of sleep. Allow the weight of the day to drift away, leaving only a tranquil glow behind your closed eyes. May the echoes of that moonlit desert keep watch over you, and may each soft inhalation carry you further into restorative slumber. Sleep now, dear traveler. Feel the silken hush enfold your body and mind in a gentle cocoon of night. There is nothing more to do and nowhere else to be. Simply drift, feeling the gentle pulse of your heartbeat align with the deeper cadence of ancient lullabies. Let the final flickers of wakefulness fade and surrender to the moon's tender hush. Good night, dear one. Sleep well and dream under the Pharaoh's moon.